Welcome. Today we're diving straight into a fascinating explainer on the lost history of human rest. We're going to look at some truly remarkable research, uncovering exactly how our ancestors interacted with the night. And I promise you, by the time we wrap this up, you are going to look at your own nighttime habits, and really, your entire relationship with the dark in a completely new way. Let's get right into it. So let's start with a scenario that is probably deeply, incredibly familiar to so many of us. Why do you wake up at 2 a.m.? You know the feeling. You're lying there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and you just feel that rising wave of frustration, right? You think you've got insomnia, you feel like your body is literally malfunctioning, failing to do the one basic task it's actually supposed to do at night. It is incredibly stressful. Well, take a deep breath, and I really want you to internalize this. Your body isn't broken. It is just remembering. Seriously, that 2 a.m. wakefulness, it isn't some modern glitch in your system. It's actually a deeply ingrained evolutionary memory coming right to the surface.
To understand exactly what your body is trying to remember, think about this number. For 99.9% of human history, we're talking over 300,000 years here, our ancestors lived entirely without light switches. When the sun went down, they spent half their lives enveloped in a darkness so thick, so profound, they couldn't even see their own hands in front of their faces. And that darkness didn't just happen to them. It literally shaped our human biology.
Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, the Campfire Revolution, from prey to storytellers.
So according to a 2012 study by Burnett and colleagues, the earliest evidence of controlled fire sits right there, in the ancient layers of Wonderwer Cave. Now this wasn't just about getting warm. It created a literal 30-foot radius of safety in what was a really, really dangerous world. But the most profound shift? Well, as anthropologist Polly Weissner outlined in her 2014 research, that 30 feet of firelight literally restructured our brains and our societies. Instead of just hiding in silent fear of nocturnal predators all night, humans actually used that glowing circle to socialize. It sparked the absolute birth of nighttime storytelling. The dark suddenly became a place for community.
Which brings us to Section 2, First and Second Sleep, the Forgotten Rhythm.
Today, we've got this immense modern expectation. You go to bed, you power down, and you stay unconscious for one solid 8-hour block. And if you deviate from that even a little bit, you panic. But historically, based on historian Roger Eckertch's groundbreaking 2001 research into pre-industrial slumber, human sleep was actually naturally divided. It was a two-phase rhythm. People had a first sleep, then they woke up in the middle of the night, and eventually they went back down for a second sleep. This wasn't a disorder. This was the absolute standard human experience for millennia before the invention of the light bulb.
So you might be wondering, what on earth happened during that gap in the middle of the night? Well, they called it the watch. And the absolute crucial point here is that this was not some period of frantic, stressful insomnia. The watch was a deeply meditative, entirely natural window of midnight wakefulness. People used this time to stoke the fire, check on their family, reflect on their dreams, or simply socialize in the quiet dark before heading into their second sleep. So your 2 a.m. wake up? Yeah, that's just your body trying to enter the watch.
Moving on to Section 3, the Science of Darkness, Biological Proof.
Okay, let's look at the science. In 1992, researcher Thomas Ware conducted a really famous darkness experiment. When he removed artificial light and put subjects in short photo periods, which is basically mimicking ancient winter darkness, guess what happened? Human sleep naturally reverted right back to that historical biphasic two-part pattern. The watcho came back. And later, in 2013, Wright and his colleagues showed that just taking people camping, completely away from electrical lights, naturally entrains and resets the human circadian clock by roughly 2 hours. It syncs us right back to the natural light-dark cycle. So the hard science really proves that our bodies are still absolutely wired for the campfire.
And this brilliantly illustrates Section 4, the cost of progress, losing the night.
Think about the timeline here. Over 300,000 years ago, we had the localized, gentle glow of the earliest controlled firelight. And that natural rhythm held incredibly strong for hundreds of thousands of years. But then, fast forward to the year 1667. Under the orders of Louis XIV, Paris introduced systematic street lighting. Now this was a massive biological disruption. For the first time, the night was no longer fully dark. And that historical pivot fast forwards us straight to today, the modern smartphone screen era, where we are literally blasting our eyes with daylight spectrum light at 11 p.m.
Now, right before we wrap up, I have to share this fantastic historical Easter egg. It really shows just how deeply ingrained the management of nighttime firelight was in our ancestors' daily lives. When we hear the word curfew today, we usually think of, teenagers having to be home by 10 p.m. But the Oxford English Dictionary notes it actually comes from the old French phrase couvre-feu, which literally translates to cover fire. It was the specific time at night when townspeople were strictly required to extinguish or cover their hearth fires to prevent massive town-wide blazes while everyone went into their first sleep. The entire night was ruled by the management of light.
So as we come to the end of this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, kind of provocative thought. We are basically trading the Milky Way for a smartphone screen. Sure, we've banished the terrifying dark of the ancient world, but in doing so, we've also banished the peaceful rhythm of the first sleep, the reflective quiet of the watch, and the entirely natural reset of our circadian clocks. So the very next time you wake up at 2 a.m., remember the campfire. Remember that you aren't broken. And you might just want to ask yourself, what is the true biological cost of trading the natural night for the glow of a screen? Think about that tonight.